Look at all the beautiful people. Cool. Beautiful people. Hello, Lisbon. I want to hear you. It's good for the audio. It is. Awesome. Awesome. So, special guest with me. So good to see you here today.
How are you
awesome. Matt Flamini with GF Gut Biochemicals. Let's have a seat and get ourselves started. First, big round of applause for the Web Summit team. Matt Stapleton, Bernardo's back there working super hard. They'll never get enough praise for what they do. Now they're clapping. Now they're clapping. And then big round of applause for yourselves for being here and putting in the work. Big round of applause for yourselves. Hope you're enjoying this Web Summit. My name is Jordan French with Grit Daily Group. We're now 6 news outlets, a lot of nerd content. Check it out. It's a great time. Speaking of nerds, luvulinic acid. Let's just throw it out there. Not a common term. At least, I don't think anyone in the audience, there might be a couple who know this, but it's in pretty much everything, Matthew, and that's what you're working on.
Not yet. Not yet. But maybe, good afternoon to everybody. It's a pleasure being here. Maybe let me take a step back and explain a little bit, in which type of industry are we evolving. So let me speak about the petrochemical industry. What people don't realize is it's everywhere. Meaning like every product we're using on daily basis, going from shampoo, deodorant, clothes, detergents. All those everyday products are made of ingredients coming from the oil industry. So this oil industry is called the petrochemical industry. And what we're trying to do very much is like to transition from a petrochemical industry based on fossil fuel to a bio-based industry. Why? Because something which people don't realize yet, when we talk about sustainability, many people are thinking only about packaging. Packaging clearly is an important topic, but what about the ingredients, which are part of the formulation, which are in our everyday product, which we are using every single day. So what we're trying to do at GF Biochemicals is to bring solution to make the product we use every day, to make them more sustainable and more safe. Because the reality is maybe if I ask the audience who really care about the planet, maybe you will touch 20% of this audience. If you ask the audience who really care about his own health, then you achieve to reach everybody.
And we're listening intently here, Matt, and it sounds like we're all pretty guilty for using products that have fossil fuels in them. One thing people don't necessarily have easy access to is to know the difference, right, in a particular product. So let's just go down that road and we'll back up a bit because a lot of inquiring minds want to know how we even got here. But let's get right to it on that. How do people know? Are they looking for a specific ingredient term or a warning label? How do we get there so that we all know it's important. We all do want to defossilize our products, and we don't want to wear things that are going to get plastics and little microplastics in our water that we'll drink later. But how do we abide by our own rule set that we want to follow?
So first of all, when you look at, let's take a shampoo. When you look at the back of the shampoo, you have all those crazy ingredients. 90% of those ingredients, are still coming from the fossil fuel industries. Some of those ingredients are bad for the environment. Some of those ingredients are also bad for the health of people. I'll give you a few examples. Take silicone. Silicone is something you find regularly in shampoos. It gives that soft, effect on the hair. This is having a terrible impact on nature because silicone is not biodegradable, meaning that when you use a shampoo, which is, going down the drain after you took your shower, the silicone will not degrade before 100 of years. So it accumulates in water. The problem is is making the water from the tap water we're drinking every day more and more polluted, one aspect. Another aspect is, for example, air diffuser. We're all using an air diffuser maybe in our house to make it smell better. 80% of air diffuser ingredients is what we call the solvent. A solvent who come from the oil industry. Many of the solvents today are being phased out and pushed out from the market because they are what we call cancerogenic. Okay? So those ingredients more and more are being phased out and pushed out from the market. And what we're trying to do at GF Biochemicals is to bring solutions to target those harmful ingredients for health, of people and substitute them by, I mean, molecular plant-based ingredients which are safer and more sustainable. So the advice is, if you take personal care, I'm using baby product. Why? Because this is one of the industries where you have the tougher regulation, I would say. Another example how to prevent and to try to be on the safe side is like go for products which are, the preservation is like shorter. You know, you look at the back and you have, it goes up to 18 months, 1 year. Take the one of 6 months. Means like they are the most natural and the less chemical product in it.
It sounds like there's some relatively easy ways for all of us to get educated on knowing the difference and looking for some specific things. It also sounds like you have at least some leverage and some power. For those who are uninitiated on GF biochemicals, it sits upstream. It's not a retail play. It sits upstream and provides some of the base ingredients that go into companies that do use defossilized or do make defossilized products. So for the inquiring minds, that name, I know a bit, but if you could share, what is the GF refer to?
So first of all, so the GF, the G is for Granata, so the co-founder, the F is for Flamini. So started the journey 13 years ago. So maybe to tell a little bit about myself, so I've been a professional football player for close to 20 years. I played 8 years in UK for Arsenal, 5 years for AC Milan, and when I moved from UK to Italy, started like developing like the company over a decade ago and building a partnership with the Polytechnic of Milan. And the aim was, as I was saying, like transitioning from a petrol-based industry to a bio-based one. So we developed a set of technology, maybe to explain that we're in deep tech. Deep tech meaning it takes time, is longer development, and it takes, I mean, like a journey of 10 years to bring a new ingredient, a new molecule to the market, okay? We're not building like app or like e-commerce site. So what we did, you mentioned levulinic acid. What's LA in a few words, is a molecule platform. You take oil, you extract oil, you basically like refine oil and you have a large number of derivatives in every single product we are touching today. What we do is like we have developed at large scale a molecule which has been identified by the US Department of Energy as one of the 12 molecules to transition from petrol-based to plant-based. And what we do, we use like biomass, so plant-based leftover, which we convert into this molecule. And the advantage of this molecule, as I was saying, is a molecule platform. It gives us the opportunity to address a large number of market. We can do some, like we are doing some bio-based pesticides, you know, like on fruit and vegetables. We are using it as a replacement for silicone. We are doing like more sustainable and safer like sunscreen. We are also part of like formulation for air diffuser. What we're trying to do is like to make the end product safer and more sustainable.
Sounds like you have a lot of opportunities to leverage this technology and really get it into almost any product. It's almost sounds ubiquitous in terms of end use. What we're hearing though, Mathieu, is you must have absolutely loved chemistry as a kid.
This is a good question, and this is something which sport is helping you, you know, understand. I mean, like in this life, everything is possible. First, I've achieved my dream to be a professional football player once, and I've been like passionate about like sustainability for a long time. But to be totally frank, also life is a paradox. I mean, if you take my case in school, there was 2 subjects which I was completely like disliking. The first one was speaking English, and I've been living abroad for the past like 20 years of my life, and I kind of feeling more comfortable in English than in French. So this is one aspect. The second aspect is chemistry. I didn't like chemistry at all at school, and I'm running now, I'm a CEO of a biochemical company. So maybe the message is just to say that it is allowed to dream, and in this life everything is possible. So it's a matter of like commitment, hard work, and dedication, and everything, you know, can happen.
Well, that does give me hope, and I think for some in the audience, if you didn't do well in chemistry necessarily, I mean, I guess I did, so I'm not part of the group, but if you didn't, and you didn't like it, there's still hope.
There is hope. I think there is plenty of hope and many learnings, you know, like which I'm using every day coming from the world of sport. I think like there are many parallels between sport and being an entrepreneur and the startup world. I mean, like maybe to mention a few examples, perform under pressure. When you play in front of 80,000 people, I mean, you have to deal with your pressure and you have to still be able to perform. Same when you're an entrepreneur. When you're an entrepreneur, you need courage, you need to take risk, you involve like your family. I mean, you invest a lot of your time, your energy, your money. So you have to basically perform under pressure too.
It is, yeah. And sometimes life feels like a performance. You know, for example, here, hundreds in this audience and the thousands watching you right now, Matthew. That's part of that performance.
Yeah, I think so. But I think I was mentioning there also the aspect dedication, hard work. I mean, obviously, if it was easy, everybody will do it. So it's also important to explain that. I mean, being an entrepreneur is not easy. Being an athlete is uneasy. You know, like you see the guys playing on the field, but behind there is a lot of hard work. So sacrifice, dedication, hard work. I mean, resilience is also important. I'm not a patient person at all, and it took us over a decade to finally bring the product to commercialization. Why? Because you have to go through a long journey, development, certification. And maybe to finish, one of the important parallels is like team spirit. Team spirit, being able to lead, but at the same time being also like to listen to others. So the team spirit makes a difference because in a company, I mean, there are people who make the company successful.
And speaking of the team, there's been quite a bit of limelight on you, maybe a little bit less on Pasquale Granata, your co-founder. So if you, for example, if you sit in the midfield position at GF Biochemicals, where does Pasquale, your co-founder, sit? At least when you guys started the company, where would you say that he played on the proverbial field?
So I have zero chemical background. I studied law for a bit less than a year, and then I turned professional football player, so I had to basically quit. So I have zero chemical background. The other co-founder has also zero chemical background, but I think what makes the difference is to surround yourself from the right people. And from day one, we had a strong technical team. So Pasquale right now is like more on a board level. I've been a board member for many years, and I've become CEO like a year and a half ago.
Yep.
So I'm a young CEO and still have a lot to learn. So I think the team is extremely important, especially for people who don't have any chemical background. But it has been like a journey. I think it's also important to enjoy the journey. And I think like smart people, I mean, are able to adapt. And this is what I've been trying to do for many, many years now. And I get more and more comfortable when we speak about biochemistry.
It sounds like Pasquale's moved from the team and playing on the field to perhaps the football team management, if you will. From my, and in addition, from my memory, I did play some, as we call it, soccer in the United States. Midfield was, if I recall correctly, in a lot of ways the most important position. Really had good control of the entire field, front and back. Sounds like that specifically even extends to your work today as a CEO.
I think so. I think so too. If you ask me today, I mean, what do I miss the most about my previous career is probably not kicking the ball. It's just being part of a wolf pack, everybody sharing the same goals, the same objective, and having like full commitment to reach it. And this is something I'm also trying to replicate, you know, like in my life as an entrepreneur. So what I like to say, we're trying to build a commando team in a day-to-day operation with the management, trying to build also a commando team at the board level, at the investor level. So I'm trying to replicate, you know, like that feeling of belonging to something bigger than simply ourselves. This is something what I'm trying to replicate in a company.
Certainly, and I think we'll spend the rest of our time on two different subjects. One is, you know, the future of the company and where you want to go, because I think that's really fascinating. I know this audience wants to hear it. We got a question email, even emailed in on that. The other is to go back to the sports and sports generally, not just football, because this comes up a lot, and it's not discussed openly a lot, but should be. Despite a lot of success that a lot of sports players have in sports, not necessarily all have such an exceptional transition like you did. So for those in, whether they're minor leagues and professional, or they're the Ronaldo, the Messi of this day, at some point they'll move on and do something else. What's your advice to them, Mathieu?
I think being a good entrepreneur is being able to project yourself and to anticipate where's going to be the next trend. And as an athlete, because we have a short career, I think it's also important to be able to project yourself and to find yourself also like other challenge. We come from an industry where performance is everything, adrenaline is everything, and when we stop your career, you need to be able to reinvent yourself. But I think this is not only necessary in sport. I think it's also, necessary like in life. I was reading something like not so long ago, Zan. I mean, over like 60% of the job in 2030 are still not, discovered. I think it's going to be like a transition for many of us to be able to adapt and to adapt fast because the world is going very fast, and this is something we have to face. As I was saying before, for me, like someone smart is someone which is able to adapt, and it's also about the capability to learn.
And speaking of the sport itself, you haven't quite hung up your cleats, have you? You still play.
I'm still playing on weekends, but yeah, I stopped my career like 3 years ago because I became CEO, as I was saying, like a year and a half ago, and this is a full commitment. I'm probably busier now than I was before. So again, it's a new learning phase. It's every day a new challenge, and it's made of up and down, but the most important is to keep moving forward.
I think a lot of us play. Actually, we'll see how relevant that is. How many of those in the audience still play sports, like recreationally, like any of them? Put your hands up. Some good participation. And how many specifically play soccer? Who wants to play soccer with Matt later with me? Let's get those hands up. Do we have any football players? I should say football here.
Not
football
many,
players?
not many.
Oh, we got some. We're here. Okay.
Everybody
well,
wants to
we
win.
can put a team together.
Everybody wants to win, that's why.
Yes, you're right about that. So really appreciate you taking time on that topic. We have perfect timing for the rest. We did get an email, like I said, about, hey, like, where are they taking this company? And let me lay some foundation. You had an acquisition relatively recently, an American company, Sengis. Do you see more in that future? And I guess, where do you want to go with GF, given how much you've accomplished so far, Matthew?
So I like to talk about the purpose. I think like the purpose and the mission is also very important. So at GF Biochemicals, what we're trying to do is basically to make the everyday product safer and more sustainable for people. So also remaining as independent as possible, it's very important because obviously we always had the opportunity to partner with big corporations. The reality is like big corporations unfortunately have a huge legacy, okay, on creating the problem, and it is harder for them to adapt to a world which is moving fast. So at the same time, companies like us are much more agile, and it gives us the opportunity to capture probably like much faster some market shares. So one of the main important aspects is like to remain as independent as possible and to stand up to our mission as long as possible. Doesn't mean that later on, like we will maybe not, like partner with a big group because this is what we do on everyday basis. We partner, like with big groups which have this goal to transition from petrol-based to the bio-based. But in terms of like the company itself, we want to remain as long as possible independent. And then on a second stage, maybe like once we will have continued developing and creating value, maybe why not at one point like IPO but again, like I come from an industry where I've been, like where I had like a comfortable life and where I could have had a comfortable life for the next few generations. So for me, the main goal is like the mission, the purpose, and why I'm doing that.
Yeah, certainly, and I hear that, and that resonates with this audience too. For those out there who are running your own companies, there's nothing like purity of purpose when you do maintain independent. We do that too at Grit Daily Group. Independent media still exists, and we're part of that. Really appreciate having you. Big round of applause for Matt Flamini. Thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate you. That's all the time that we have. Hope you enjoyed this talk. Until next time.